Okay, hi guys, welcome back to the Audio Levels channel and welcome back to another review. As you can see here, I have in front of me the Raptgo Hook X tuned by HBB. I've recently learned like the whole thing about HBB, and he seems to be a guy that tunes earphones for the Chinese companies. And I've been sort of quiet on that in the past, and I don't think it's always a good thing because I think you're missing out on the what the companies have to offer. You know, companies like The Audio, C Audio, a million of these companies, Raptgo with our original Hook X, Wu Zaitan, etc., etc. They've shown tremendous ability to tune the earphones on their own. I mean, that's their jobs. That's what they do. They have a concept and they want to create that. So do I feel like we need this? No, but at times it does work. For example, there was an HBB EJ07M that sounded absolutely excellent. Then there was something called the Alina that I heard that I also saw the HBB on it, and it was no good for me. But so it can be hit or miss. It just it's just sort of dependent. So once in a while it's kind of nice, but you can get kind of saturation and fatigue with it and the necessity. Fortunately, this is a case where they've kept all the good stuff from the original and they've made it better. So, and it's purely on a tuning standpoint, but also if there was any input derived from him for the color change is sick. I love this electric blue. It actually looks like, it's so electric and so blue that it looks like it's glowing. Looks like it is an actual electric blue. In the box, you don't get too much, but the upgrades are noticeable and welcome. You get a generic carry case here, which is basically just the same as anything else you can get out of China, but it is, how do you call it? It's just stamped with the Raptgo logo on it. On the inside, you do get this cool little tip case, which I far prefer over getting your tips in a little plastic bag. This makes it easier to select, and you get a decent little selection of tips. These silicons being wider bore but also slightly harder versus the dark ones being a smaller bore by I mean diameter of the hole on the inside. The tips that I use with them for the most part were my Asla ZenFit tips, which I'll link in the description below. They're the best gold standard tips, and they're just the tips I use with every earphone now because they're so good. They grip the ear so well. So yeah, the included tips are actually quite good, but I still used it with Asla ZenFits and I found that worked just fine for my needs. The big thing that I'd like here is that the cable is still very similar to that green cable, and I have experienced some fraying on the cable during my testing time, which is a bit of a pain in the ass, but it's not a bad cable at all. I'm not a big fan of cord cables, but as it goes, this one is very flowy, very low on microphonics. It's not my favorite cable, but it is very nice. And once you include the price, of course, it comes into play as being a pretty good value proposition. Now, the big thing here is that they have their system of interconnects where basically you choose what you need. Here you can see I've got the standard 3.5mm jack. You get the 4.4mm balance and the 2.5mm balance connector. So if you're wanting that extra hit of power using it with dedicated amplifier or something, go ahead and plug it into your balance connector. To do that, all you do is, if I can get this to focus, you put it in and you kind of swivel and push it in together. There's no click and there's no lock on this mechanism, so just know that if you drop or you pull or something, it will break away with relatively little force. But anyway, if you're going to walk away, you're probably going to pull the pin out of your DAP anyway, so it's not like this is going to save your DAP from falling on the floor or anything. The earphones themselves, virtually identical to the original bar the color change. Nothing that I'm seeing that sticks out as different, but I far prefer this blue to the green of the original Hook X version. And these are, they're fairly bog standard earphone. They're going to be for medium to large size ears only. Small ears are not going to get a good fit with these, but the only other weird thing to note about it is the once I plug this in, you'll see the protrusion of the cable here. So you can see there's actually a little plastic gap just in there. I just think it takes away a little bit of seamlessness, but that's just OCD and nitpicking. Now, in terms of tuning, the Hook X sounded absolutely fantastic. They're open back planar earphones with 2 piezoelectric drivers for the high end. The tuning on the original was very, very cool, very spacious sounding, but it's open in a way that a Grado is open, not open in a way that creates this artificially huge soundstage. I think this one gets a benefit of extra good soundstage because of the piezoelectric and not because it's open back. The open back just makes it sound more natural and airy, but doesn't necessarily increase the soundstage. The soundstage is driven by the peaks from the piezoelectric drivers, which create this sort of airy sense of sound space. So you get that open benefit, the open sound space from the open back design, but you also get the soundstage bump coming, I think, from the driver technology, as opposed to the actual open back design of the headphones. The biggest area you're going to notice if you've heard the original Hook X is in the low end. The low end's been added with a more realistic grunt in the sub-bass frequency. It's very, very minor. The tuning difference, going back and forth, they sound virtually identical, but in certain situations you just hear, number one, slightly more overall fullness in the lower mids, as well as a deeper extension at the sub-bass. You still get a very articulate, very fast pumping bass with good detail in the mid-bass region, but I really think that the sub-bass is the sort of standout area of it, where you're going to notice the difference from the previous generation. Now, the big thing with the original Hook X was that when it was released, it got a lot of fanfare, but it's since been, I would say, surpassed. This now throws it right back into the mix. For me, you have the Shure S12 Pro, you have the Tin Hi-Fi P1 Plus, and you have the Wu Zaitan as the three that I would pick based off of like an all-rounder, a sub-bass one, and a micro detail one. Tin Hi-Fi P1 for micro detail. Hook X now sort of fits into that mix again. And I think it sits somewhere between the Shure S12 Pro and the Wu Zaitan in terms of tuning and usability. Who's going to want to listen to this? Well, for one, if you've ever listened to Infected Mushroom, this is absolutely phenomenal with Infected Mushroom. The crescendo peak on Psycho, for example, about 5 minutes and 5 seconds, where it picks up the pace, picks up the electronic detail, and then it crashes into a really, really fast, deep pumping bass line after he says the word psycho. That sounds absolutely fantastic, but then you go into something like Artillery off of Vicious Delicious, and you have the combination of the speed. The Infected Mushroom is a very fast-paced bass heavy music, but in Vicious Delicious they went into experimentation with guitars, rappers and stuff like that, and the one standout track, Artillery, with Q-Tip singing, you have the sort of clacking of the drumsticks together. You have the guitar coming in when he starts screaming Artillery. It just sounds so cohesive and so well made and so well balanced and just perfectly tuned for a track like that. Now, if it's something more floaty and micro detail wanting, I'm still going to go for the Tin Hi-Fi P1. I just think that creates more of that planar magnetic special tuning. But as an all-rounder for something that I'm going to listen to a lot of different types of music, this is a very, very, very good pick. It's a little bit more expensive than the others. The Wu Zaitan coming in at about $150, same with the Tin Hi-Fi P1 and Shure S12. I can't think off the top of the head, but maybe around $200. So it is the more expensive of the group, but it's still very, very good, and it definitely offers something different with the way the piezoelectric drivers handle themselves in the top end. It's a very different sensation that it gives you when you're listening to your music. So that's it for this review, guys. Any questions, please ask me down below. If you liked the video, please give a thumbs up. And yeah, what do you think of this? Do you think it was a good idea, the collaboration? I personally think this was a good collaboration. I think this it breathed new life into something that might have started to get overlooked by other hype trains and stuff, and it's kind of brought the Raptgo Hook X back with a better look to it and better tuning overall that suits my needs. So thank you very much for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Peace.